Hello everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Holland Land Office Museum's Artifact video series. My name is Ryan Duffy, and I'm the director of the museum, and this week we are going to discuss one of the more important technological achievements that occurred right here in Batavia, particularly in the field of transportation, and that is the running of engine 999 from Batavia to Buffalo. Now, engine 999 was built in 1893 by the New York Central Railroad in its West Albany factory, and it was built to be a high-speed train of its day that was designed to break any land speed records that were possibly out there and reach that mythical mark of 100 miles per hour, which hadn't been reached up until that time. Its purpose was to be the locomotive for the Empire State Express, which would run from Syracuse to Buffalo, running right through Batavia. It had several design features that were meant to give it higher capable speed than most locomotives of its time. And part of that was the 86-inch wheels that were on the front instead of the normal 70-inch, and this would give it more power as it was to go through on its run. When it was released into the public and out onto the New York Central tracks, it was touted as the fastest locomotive out there, and it would beat any speed record that was available at the time. And it was put to the test on May 9th, 1893, when it was to do its run between Syracuse and Buffalo. And the speed record was designed to be clocked on the smoothest part of that run between Batavia and Buffalo, where it had dozens of miles of flat land that it could easily reach their top speed. And it eventually topped 100 miles an hour, at least by the measurements that were given at the time, though probably officially never reached 100 miles an hour, but unofficially it topped it quite a bit. On May 9th, it hit 102 miles per hour, and then the next day when it did the run again, it hit 112 miles per hour. This speed record was observed by observers along the line that were clocking between mile markers, though there was no official documentation of it reaching over 100 miles per hour. However, the excitement around this run grew across the country, and engine 999 became the most famous locomotive in the world and was destined for stardom and sent to all sorts of events and fairs, and was the highlight of 1893's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, and then would come back to Chicago for the Chicago World's Fair Century of Progress in 1933, and then in the 1948-1949 Chicago Railroad Fair. So it was then also seen throughout the country and had a long and distinguished service to the New York Central, and actually was not retired until 1952. Now, the engine life continued on after its retirement, as it was made into an artifact itself. It was actually bought by the Chicago Museum of Science in 1962 and was housed at the museum outdoors, though. And after decades of being held outdoors, it started to deteriorate and was due for a massive undertaking of restoration. And with the redesign of the museum in the 1990s, it was actually able to be brought inside and refurbished back to its former glory, and even back to its original state with its 86-inch wheels instead of the 70 that it was eventually replaced with due to some design flaws after it made its famous run. And actually, the locomotive is still on display at the Chicago Museum of Science, that you can go witness it today. But what made it famous was its run right here in Batavia, from Batavia to Buffalo, making it the first land vehicle to reach over 100 miles per hour. It's quite an engineering feat, and though there might be some discrepancies in the overall story, it definitely was something that captivated the nation's imagination right at the height of the industrial movement forward towards modernization. And though today we might think of 100 miles per hour as not anything super fantastic, as most motor vehicles that we travel in now can reach that, but back in 1893 this was a true feat, and it happened right in our backyard here. So we actually do have some pictures of engine 999 donated to us from the Medina Railroad Museum. But we have this locomotive was part of the New York Central system, which also has its beginning sort of here in Batavia, as Dean Richmond, who I discussed in a previous video, was actually the president of the New York Central Railroad about 3 decades before Engine 999 makes its famous run, but the New York Central has a large part to do with Batavia's growth, and it's only fitting that the land record for speed was set right outside of Batavia. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little video on Engine 999 and its race for the land speed record, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of our videos if you've been watching them. We have well over 30 of them now in our library, and we're going to keep going, putting these out weekly. In case you've missed any previously, you can go to our YouTube channel, Holland Land Office Museum, and check out any that have happened before. And we hope that you stick around and watch the future ones as we go through more artifacts here in the museum.